Welcome to Ironcast. My name's Anuki, your friendly neighborhood caster. We're here on the Toronto coastline and introducing our first commandant. They've crossed the sandy wastelands with only cheat codes to sustain them. Leading the Africa Corps, it's Mad Hacks. And if we're lucky, we might see them spray a bunch of that silver stuff in their mouth before a daring charge. Panzer Grenadiers are a warm sight to see, of course. Haven't seen enough of those. So, on the other side of the map, as always, they are wearing red coats, but they aren't the red coats. Leave the people of Butlins out of this. Commanding the American forces, it's Quixolotl. And that name sounds suspiciously like a French house robot to me. Get well soon, Craig Charles. They've already chosen the armor battle group and have assault engineers. How many assault engineers shall we see out? These will work fine against the Panzer Grenadiers and Panzer Pioneers, but if Mad Hacks rolls out assault Panzer Grenadiers, then Quixolotl will have to somehow ascend their assault engineers, maybe into ultra assault engineer Marines, if they hope to live long enough to utter the words, "Run away!" Anyway, whilst we wait for the first engagement, as always, join the discord.me/Ironcast, and I thought I'd take a look at some of the news on Reddit. So we got the new in-game shop that's being discussed. It's a good job. I don't care about the skins in-game, but also it really sucks for people who are quite busy. They won't be able to complete these quest systems in time. I've got a little farm to run. Look after these cuties here getting their special breakfast burgers. Then there's chickens and rodents and cats. And when I'm not looking after the animals, I'm busy writing up my reports for my recent special Black Ops mission as a double agent against Scotland's counterintelligence agencies. And in those reports is a bit of haggis and battered Mars bars. And then I cast these games too. And let me know in the comments what counterintelligence agencies are your favorite and why. Anyway, we got our first rounds being traded. Assault engineers against the Panzer Pioneers, who are darting for the wall with a Panzer Grenadier squad to offer them covering fire. But at that distance, they're not going to do enough damage against the assault engineers. They also get behind a wall as well. So Panzer Pioneers auto retreat. I think we're going to lose them. Oh, devastating. And then charging up to the Panzer Grenadiers with gusto. And they've done a cracking job, but the weariness is kicking in. They can go home to a bottle of champagne and a Snickers to dip in it. Killing a squad this early is a huge triumph. We got engagements in the north as well, sending a Panzer Grenadier squad packing. That's just how good those assault engineers are. Quixolotl just bringing their scout squad back. They don't want to put them into combat engagements. We have a weapons support center out here for Quixolotl, so maybe a sniper. Those are pretty popular now that the aim time is reduced. Could see a half-track. Half-track would be pretty sweet to see. Don't see that all too often for the American forces. Oh, in fact, we already have a sniper out. Of course!
Utility vehicle as
it's kind of become the staple of the American forces now since that buff. And Mad Hacks has got themselves a truck. Got to mount some skulls on it, make it more Armageddon-y looking. Oh, I hope we don't see skins like that. But then again, so long as you can turn them off, which you could in Company of Heroes 2, then that's fine, I suppose. And there's a lot of talk about Company of Heroes 2 versus Company of Heroes 3. I mean, Code 2 is alright. It's got so many cool things, like the amount of units. Here we go with the assault engineers again, getting nice and close with sniper covering fire. Panzer Grenadiers have just got to run. Assault engineers on the flank as well, but they realize they're not going to get there in time to do much, so let's just go ahead and capture that fuel point. So I was saying about Company of Heroes 2, yeah, lots of cool things. I really love the bulldozer. I really want to see the bulldozer ability back, where it just lifts up a load of dirt and creates some cover. That was awesome. The infrared spotting thing that the Oberkommandos had, I think it was. I love that unit as well. Anything that's sort of like recon and intelligence is brilliant. I hope we see the old British triangulated coordinates thing, where you built like 3 things and it detected anything within that triangle. There's so many brilliant ideas to pull out of both Company of Heroes 1 and 2. But since 2 has a lot more, there's a lot more to pull from it. Having said that, though, it was a more, let's say, micro-reactive play, rather than reacting and adapting to a strategical or tactical level, which is what I'm personally looking for, that kind of experience. I want players to be tested on the tactics and the strategies that they're doing, rather than what would frequently happen is, because lethality is higher in Company of Heroes 2, if you throw a bundle grenade onto a squad in light cover, it will wipe the squad from full health. And the fuse time is shorter, the throw time is shorter. It's just testing reactions far too much, and you just get a kill at the end of it.
We have vehicles available in reserve.
Unfortunately, that could be like right when the person goes to the tactical map or flicks to somewhere on the mini-map, and then the grenade is thrown, and then they come back 2 seconds later to find the whole squad is gone, and it's basically snowballed the game and they lose. So, keeping with US Forces tradition, the quad half-track is out, and who knows where these pioneers are going. They're just going to casually walk into the building, realize that it's not a good place to hide, but there really isn't anywhere to run to now.
Panzer Pioneers reported killed.
2 Panzer Pioneers are lost.
Guastatori have been
6 minutes, 30 seconds into the game. Well, at least the Panzer Grenadiers are faring better. They are being challenged by a sniper and a combo machine gun. Ooh, that feels so very classic. The Axis would, quite commonly in Company of Heroes 1, get a sniper with a machine gun pairing going on, and they would keep close to each other, suppress and snipe. Those were the tactics. Quad half-track looking for that other Panzer Grenadier squad. Now, if you're wondering why we don't see many Panzer Grenadiers out, they cost so much, it's hard to field many of them at the start of the game, and the less squads you have early on, the less capping power you have as well. And Tier 2 comes out so quickly, you're not really stopping it. Top-level players getting Tier 2 between 4 and 5 minutes. Mad Hex brings out the 8 Rad as the most appropriate counter to the half-track that we've seen. Pretty much how that goes. And another reason for not seeing Panzer Grenadiers is that Panzer Pioneers are still good in combat so long as you have them in a favorable position. Couple it with a motorcycle, they make a great pair. And oh boy, the vision that the motorcycle provides when it's stationary is amazing. And at Vet 1, it increases, and at Vet 3, it increases even more, to a point where you see one whole screen in front and one whole screen behind. I seriously recommend trying to incorporate the motorcycle into the Africa Corps composition. If not for effectiveness, then because it's actually pretty fun making use of it. You just try and get flanking shots on your enemy and keep the Panzer Pioneers behind heavy cover. We got a bazooka squad here in response to the 8 Rad. It's going to be quite tricky to catch up to it. Guastatori with their double flamethrowers losing out to the engineers. Mad Hacks lacking in infantry power. The 8 Rad was awesome, and if they could have just had infantry to focus on the bazooka squad, the 8 Rad would have been dominating this engagement. We could get some infantry for 275 manpower. That little call-in thing on the left, maybe? Now, the price did get increased, I'd say massively, in 75 more manpower than it was. It was 200. Was it justified? Yeah, maybe, probably. But then again, I don't think that the problem really was that the call-ins were cheap, but rather Panzer Grenadiers are so expensive for what they are, and the problem gets even trickier to really kind of explain in a short space of time as double engineers climb over the wall armed with flamethrowers. And the Panzer Grenadiers really don't want to have to be retreating through that. Get a safe retreat path first, and then hit that button to go back to base. But yeah, the Panzer Grenadiers are kind of supposed to be expensive and or not great, because this faction is more about mechanized play. And infantry gets a bonus when near vehicles. Sadly, not the motorcycle. Apparently that doesn't count as a vehicle. But you can see the icons above infantry when that 8th rad is nearby. Not all infantry gets the combined arms bonus. The Guastatori do not. Some good side shots from the bazooka team here. Another 2 volleys. Ooh, hits the back of the truck. Now, I don't know what kind of bonuses the Panzer Grenadiers get. I would assume it's rate of fire and harder to hit. That seems to be kind of a fairly standard thing for bonuses. But the difference is noticeable in terms of the results. You'll win more engagements and find more of your soldiers are left alive. Quixolotl with 2 bazooka squads. It's unusual, but since they're not airborne, we usually see the paratroopers with the M9 bazookas out to try and hold off against light vehicles early on. And nobody wants to use AT guns, and in all honesty, on this map, I don't want to use AT guns. It's a very awkward map to try and shift AT guns around to get a good position. It's kind of okay at the bottom side of the map, but at the top side of the map, there's just so much little narrow corridors with not great stretches of land to cover. Really opens that AT gun to being flanked by infantry and grenaded. Engineers on their way back after spotting a Stug D. Sniper to provide covering fire, whilst the Guastatori literally cover them in fire. Stug D is a solid anti-infantry vehicle. Maybe its presence can buy some time to field more infantry. Got medics here. Got a short distance back to base to carry that wounded. Love the medics. Can't wait to make my 4v4 mod where I hope to make medics a more engaging role for a support type player. Ooh, I see a M3 75mm motor carriage out. I'm just going to try and take on the Stug D. It might have quite a challenge to it. Got infantry riding on the back here. Into battle. I don't fancy their chances. Neither do they. Back to base for them. We'll just let the Stug D handle it. So 2 bazooka squads, 75mm motor carriage. If you think those suck, then so did the US. They actually converted over 1,000 of them back into half-tracks. Where are you firing that flame? Trying to take out aircraft? Ooh, nasty shots on the Stug D. M3 half-track trying to close that distance. Now the M3 75mm motor carriage was... It came about before the idea of the tank destroyer doctrine, where we'd have tanks specifically focused on destroying other tanks. Which I've got some interesting stories between the M10 Wolverine and the M18 Hellcat, but that's going to be a story for another time. Maybe we'll see an M18 Hellcat out in this match, and we'll bring it up then. But, you know, thanks Quixolotl for bringing out M3 75mm, though. This thing doesn't just try to shoot tanks. It also tries to provide a high explosive bombardment, and it tries to do that at a very short range, but A for effort. Such a huge concentration of American forces around here. And literally there's just one Panzer Grenadier squad. I think it's slight overkill. Machine gun facing in the direction where everything else is pointed. It probably want us to be looking out for the flank. Mad Hacks did go ahead and get another infantry squad. I'm delighted to see. I'll also help with some of the repairs. It's a massive shame losing 2 Panzer Pioneer squads at the start. Panzer Grenadiers can still repair though. Now I mentioned 1 or 2 reasons why we don't see Panzer Grenadiers more often, and I do have another reason, which is somewhat unrelated to the Panzer Grenadiers, at least not directly themselves. It's the half-track. If you want to get that combined arms bonus at the start of the game to make your Panzer Grenadiers more suitable for combat, you'll need that half-track. It's quite difficult to justify getting a 300 manpower squad and then a 280 manpower light carrier to support that. Especially when tier 2 comes out so early, and then you could be calling in an assault squad or a Jaeger squad that comes with a light carrier at a massive discount. But it's not just that, you've also got all the upgrades to think about as well. Combat half tracks, 150 manpower tier 1 gives you plus 40 health and nearly doubles the front armor, which, I mean, it's a light carrier, it's not really worth mentioning. I don't think the front armor will provide all that much. We've got another Stug D out here now. If you get the tier 2 vehicle survival package, you'll get 80 health, not just for the half track, but for all vehicles. And then there's another 80 health you can get from the emergency repair kits, the last upgrade there. All the middle upgrades basically increase health in some regard. And with no upgrades, you're looking at it like 2 volleys of either AT rifles or double bazookas killing that light carrier. It doesn't leave a lot of room to escape. Now we're getting that 75mm motor carriage in there, but not going to be able to survive long enough now. There is a Stug D approaching on it and a Sherman riding across the battlefield with no challengers. Mad Hacks is going to have to find some anti-tank somewhere. Gonna lose a Panzer Grenadier squad with a machine gun. That's 100 munitions down the back to base. The Sherman switched to its nearest target. How's that for aggro control? Mad Hacks has played enough Final Fantasy XIV. Losing a Stug D, though. What a needless waste of German engineering. Leaves a Sherman with a tiny boom as well. Why not? Plenty of stockpiled munitions. Now, there's one last thing that I wanted to mention about the half-track thing, and that's... it's really dependent on skill level. It can be good advice to say, don't get the light carrier out unless you can keep it alive. Otherwise, you're just going to drive it in, it gets killed, it doesn't do anything's worth of effectiveness in changing the outcome of any of the early game battles. And then you've just kind of like shot yourself in the foot. So it makes sense to find alternatives that are more manageable. And even so, I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of high-level play involving the light carriers in a 1v1 environment at the moment. But maybe I've not seen enough. It's more likely to see that the light carriers just come out with the assault squad or the Jaeger squad. And, you know, we try and do the best with them that we can, but obviously with them being so susceptible to being taken out, we're just kind of grateful for whatever they can provide. And at which point, if you've got an 8-rad or a Stug D, they're providing the combined arms bonuses as well. And they're much easier to keep out on the field. It's a shame. I'd really like to see more light mechanized tactics. But the only way that we're really going to see that is if the phases or teching of the game is slowed down a bit. Running straight into that machine gun. Only one squad is suppressed, though. Now, that is surprising. There we go. There's the double suppression into bazooka fire. Perfect target for the Stug D to focus on. Sherman riding in. Gonna get a flanking shot out. Stug D turns. Its front armor is very important. Sherman getting clogged up with Panzer Grenadiers. Nothing to worry about. I'm gonna try and finish off that squad. That 2 gets away. The AT half track getting a side shot in. That thing probably needs like a lockdown ability where it can increase its reload time or something. It's so slow. The Stug D scoots away. Got a Marder 3 in the back now. Finally, some anti-tank weaponry for this Sherman. Wow, the range on that thing is huge. So much better than the AT half-track. Is Company of Heroes realistic? Well, flamethrowers could take out a tank if you were behind it and could burn the engine out. Or if the tank had gaps in it, the flames might cause the crew to have to bail out. Got a second Sherman out on the field now. Big explosion from the Guastatori Marder 3. One more shot. Takes it out. Very short-lived Sherman. As far as flamethrowers go taking out tanks, though, you're never really going to get close enough to do such a thing. So, you know, not realistic by 2 accounts. Brave Guastatori, only fighting 4 soldiers, since 4 of them have bazookas, which likely won't hit. Mad Hax has a lot of backup that they aren't bringing in to assist. They have the 8 Rat and the Panzer Grenadiers just idling nearby. Let's take a quick look at Quix's battle group. Got the field repairs in there and the cheaper, faster deployment of vehicles. And I forget how right this feels. The armor company should be focusing on armor, and their abilities supplement all of that. We are seeing so many Shermans, even from the special operations and airborne battle groups. We've got a big engagement here, just Panzer Grenadiers standing out in the open. Who cares about cover? No one's standing in cover. Marder getting a shot off onto the Sherman. Stug D moving up as well. You can see the bazooka teams just can't stand up to this kind of fight. Huge gain for Mad Hax. So the problem with the special operations in the airborne, which isn't really a problem of those battle groups, is that you take those battle groups and then you still go to tier 3 and try to spam Shermans out. At least that's what I'm kind of mostly seeing. And it feels like an identity crisis. In Company of Heroes 1, my most played thing was the US Airborne, and I did a lot of strafing runs, and paratroopers were my main source of anti-tank. And I used to snare the tanks and then try and get a satchel charge on them. And I did so with pretty good success. I'd focus on munitions over fuel because I knew I didn't need the fuel. I wasn't going heavy tanks. And then dealing with tanks was actually quite easy. I just let my opponent get fuel thinking they'd be fine, and then they just walk into a trap. I thought that grenade was going to do way more there. So it was really cool on a strategical level to play US Airborne in Company of Heroes 1. The double Sherman's back out, but 1, yeah, it's getting out of there in time. Big armor battles, but not much anti-tank power for Mad Hax. They do currently hold on to 2 victory points, and they're capturing the 3rd in the north. Medic truck being really close to the action here. Be a solid choice for the Sherman just to kill. I think, what, 2 shots maybe? Got some weapons dropping down on the ground there. If anyone had played Company of Heroes Online, which was a free-to-play version of the original Company of Heroes, one of the many cool things about that game is how abilities could be evolved and changed slightly. So you take a strafing run, for example, you could put 1 point in it, and you would just call forth a strafing run, very narrow. There goes the medic truck. Nice capture. Very frustrating to have to make another medic truck so your infantry can keep battling it out. Wow, the freaking fearless charge here, Mad Hax. There goes that silver spray in the mouth. Finally falling back, but only once they get near to the base. So anyway, the strafing run. You'd put 1 point into it, and it'd be very narrow, but you could use it earlier on in the game. And then if you put more points into it, there was like a big tree that you could build off and put certain points into certain places. You could decrease the time it took for the strafing run to hit. You could add more planes so it would strafe the same area 3 times in a row. You could make the strafing run wider, or any combination of the things. And I think there was more to it as well. But the more points you put into it, the more command points and munitions it required. So a few points in, you could use the ability early on. A ton of points in it, it was a super end game ability. And this applied to all abilities, the same as the bombing run. You could have a bombing run 3 planes wide, but I think it would cost like upwards of 300 and something munitions. It was really crazy. But it meant that when you were building your command group, you were thinking what abilities you would want early on and what abilities you would want late on. But I think it'd be really cool to see something like that in Company of Heroes 3. Yeah, maybe not. There goes the Marder 3, just face-tanking the Sherman. It's so low. Just get a grenade on it. Swapping out with the new refreshed Sherman. Not going to lose a Panzer Grenadier squad as well, are we? Oh, one soldier left, leaving it really late. Way too late. That's the GG. I'm not even going to get a chance to finish my story. Oh, well, I guess I'll do it in the roll credits. Something I'd probably suggest for Company of Heroes 3 maybe is, like, say you have a strafing run, you click on the ability, and then if you use the mouse wheel, it changes the ability, kind of scales the ability. Maybe it widens it, maybe it makes more planes to go across, maybe it reduces the amount of time, something like that, you know, just a mouse wheel to change the ability, and then it costs more munitions. On that note, make sure to join the Ironcast Discord, and I'll see you for the next cast. Mwah!